Hello students, welcome back to Ragavendra Academy. Today let us solve the marginal costing question paper problem which has come in February March 2020. Okay, before beginning the class, let's start the class with a small prayer. Gnananandamayam Devam Nirmala Spatikakrutim Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Hayagrivam Upasmahe Namaste Sharada Devi Kashmir Puravasini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatume Sada. So let's start today's class. The question paper problem which has come for 7th question. From the following information given by the ABC Company Limited for the year 2013-14, profit is 15,000, fixed cost is 30,000, margin of safety is 60,000. So profit, fixed cost and margin of safety is given for 2013 and 14. For the year 2014 and 15, it is anticipated that the variable cost and fixed cost will decrease by 25% and selling price will fall by 10%. So what we have to try and understand here is we have a data of 2 years. First is for 13 and 14, which is profit, fixed cost and margin of safety. Then for 14 and 15, what they are telling is the variable cost of the firm and fixed cost of the firm will decrease by 25% and sales price will also fall by 10%. When in 2014-15, variable cost, fixed cost and selling price, all three will together will fall by 10%. Now you are required to calculate for the year 2014 and 15. What we need to calculate for 14 and 15 sales to earn profit of 10%, profit if sales are anticipated at 10%, profit if margin of safety is anticipated at 50%. Okay, so we have to calculate sales to earn profit and margin of safety, profit if the sales are anticipated at 10% above the BEP. So first we need to identify what is BEP. On top of this BEP of 10%, we have to anticipate what is the sale. Then again we have to calculate profit if margin of safety is 50% above the present percent margin of safety. So this is what we need to identify. Decode here. First thing let me try and identify what has happened in 13 and 14 with some few information. Then we will later on move on with 2014 and 15 students. Let us start the class now. Now before beginning the class, I would like to write the key formulas which is needed here. Okay, this is March 2020 question paper problem. Shri. So today I am solving March 2020 solution. So I would like to write few important formula here. Firstly, we will try to learn contribution formula. Contribution is equal to fixed cost plus profit. Or else what we can do is we can also write sales minus variable cost. That is the standard formula, but here we don't have any information on all these things, so we are taking fixed cost plus profit, because contribution denotes that the amount which is left over by the company for contributing it to the fixed cost of the company with profits added to it. Then we have PV ratio. PV ratio is again contribution divided by sales, or else we can also write profits divided by margin of safety. Then I have to write third formula, which is BEP in value, fixed cost divided by PV ratio. Then last formula is about the profits. Profits is equal to margin of safety into PV ratio. So this is the formula. So now let us start the solution. Now we will start this with Roman number 1, findings of 2013 and 14. Okay, findings. Firstly, we will try and check what has happened for 13 and 14. So let me try to find contribution. Finding contribution. Okay, now what is contribution? I will write it here. Contribution is money left to cover fixed cost and then give the profit. This is called as contribution usually. When do we get money? When do we get the money which is left over to pay fixed cost? Only when we deduct our variable cost. That is sales minus variable cost is contribution. Okay, so now we will try and write contribution. Contribution is equal to fixed cost plus profit, students. Now what is fixed cost given in the problem? 30,000. What is profit given in the problem? 50,000. So now let me write it. Fixed cost is 30,000 plus 50,000. What is my contribution now? 45,000. 30,000 of profits plus 50,000 fixed cost of 30,000. Now let us try and do it like this. Now once after we found out the contribution, next we will find out what is PV ratio. So what have we written the formula for PV ratio? PV ratio is equal to profits divided by margin of safety. Profits divided by margin of safety. Now let me check what is given as profits. So profits is given as 15,000, margin of safety is given as 60,000. So we will write it here. 15,000 divided by 60,000. This will give me 25%. This means 25% of every sale is contribution. Now let me find out what is the total sales of the company. Total sales, that is, what was our contribution? Our contribution was 45,000, right? So 45,000 divided by margin of safety, which is 0.25. This will come up to 1,80,000, or else you can also do 45,000 divided by 25%. So this is total sales of the company. Now how do we calculate variable cost? Variable cost equals sales minus contribution. What is sales? 1,80,000. What is your contribution? 45,000 is your contribution. So 45,000. So what is your variable cost? 1,35,000. So variable cost ratio is very simple. That is variable cost divided by total sales. What is variable cost? 1,35,000. What is total sales? 1,80,000. This will come up to 75%. Now Roman number 2, identifying information of 2014 to 2015. Now we will exactly calculate what has happened in 2015 and 15. Now note is that variable cost and fixed cost and selling price are declining here. Keep in mind, declining. Here you can see here. My anticipated variable cost, fixed cost will decrease by 25% and sale price will decrease by 10% in the year 2014 and 15. Now, let us do some working note calculations here. Let us assume, so I will write it here. Guys, this variable cost and fixed cost will decrease by 25% each, and your selling price will decrease by 10%. So let's assume sale price as 100 rupees. So now if it decrease by 10%, 100 into 10 divided by 100 is 10 rupees. So new selling price is equal to 100 minus 10 rupees, which is 90 rupees. Okay, if the selling price is 90 rupees, let's calculate variable cost. If old variable cost percentage is what? Variable cost ratio for the year 2013 and 14 is 75%. So if the old variable cost is 75% of 100, and now if it falls by how much percent variable cost? 25%. Now how do we calculate it? So 75 into 25 divided by 100. Let me calculate it. 75 into 25%, that is equals to 18.75%. So new variable cost is equal to 75 minus 18.75, which will be 56.25%. So this is my new selling price. This is, did you get it? Where did we get this 75%? Here actually we have calculated it for 13 and 14. Now we are doing the calculations for 14 and 15, guys. So now let us try and calculate it like this. New PV ratio. New PV ratio. So the new PV ratio is calculated like this: contribution divided by sales into 100. Now let us try to find out what is contribution. So how do we calculate contribution? Sales minus variable cost, isn't it, guys? Okay, now what is the new sales that we have found out? So new sales which we have found out was 90, minus what was the variable cost that we had found out, which was 56.25. 56.25 divided by 90 into 100. So the new PV ratio is equal to, so let us try and calculate it. So it will be 90 minus 56.25, which is 33.75 divided by 90 into 100. So 33.75 divided by 90 into 100 will be 37.5% will be your new PV ratio, if I'm not wrong. Then now let us calculate what is new fixed cost. So fixed cost will also keep reducing by 25%. If you can look at the problem here, fixed cost will also reduce by 25%. So now looking at the things into consideration, so what was your fixed cost in the question? 30,000. So 30,000 will reduce by 25%. 30,000 into 25%, 7,500. 7,500. Therefore, it will be 30,000 minus 7,500. That is equals to 22,500 rupees is your new fixed cost. Now, let us start solving this question one by one. So, for making the information very much clear, guys, this was second, identifying the information for 24, 14 and 15. Variable cost reduced by 25%, fixed cost reduced by 25%, and selling price reduced by 10%. Now we have assumed the sales as 100% and we have reduced. So if the sales now decrease by 10%, that is 100 of 10%, new selling price will be 90 rupees. If variable cost reduces by 25%, then old variable cost percentage was 75%. 75 into 25% reduction will come to 56.25. Then for the same information, we calculated new PV ratio and we have calculated new fixed cost. Now, question number A. What was the question there? A. Sales to earn a profit at 10% on sales and the margin of safety. So now, sales to earn 10% profit on sales. Now, we have to find out the logic here. Logic is that usually what happens, contribution covers fixed cost, isn't it? So we want contribution to cover fixed cost plus profits. So if you are not understanding all these logics, then you have to watch the basics introduction and case study video which I have uploaded. Then you will come to know why it is like this. Plus profit of 10% margin. Okay. So we will use the shortcut now, that is subtract the profit percentage from the PV ratio, that is equals to, so subtracting the profit percentage from the PV ratio, that is 22,500 divided by, what is PV ratio? 37.5% minus 10%. So when we are doing this, then we will be getting it somewhere around 81,818. So what is margin of safety is equal to total sales minus break-even sales. What is total sales? 81,818. How do we calculate break-even sales? Break-even sales, that is fixed cost 22,500 divided by 0.375, that is your PV ratio, that is 37%, that is equal to 60,000. So minus 60,000. So this will come up to margin of safety 21,818. So So this is how we calculated the first question. Now what is your second question? Profit if sales are anticipated at 10% above the present. Okay. B. Profit if sales 10% above BEP. Now again I would like to write the logic here. Find the old BEP first and then increase it by applying the new profitability. So old BEP so let me check out what is old break-even point first, which we have already calculated it here. $1,20,000. Old BEP is 1,20,000. New targeted sales is 1,20,000 plus 10%, 1,32,000. Now profits equals sales into PV ratio minus fixed cost, that is 1,32,000 into 37.5% minus 22,500, which is 27,000. This is profit if the sales are 10% above the BEP. Now last solution which we have is here, profit if the margin of safety is anticipated 50% above the present margin of safety. So let us try to answer this question now. Point number C, profits if margin of safety increase by 50%. So again we have to identify the logic here. Margin of safety percentage tells us how much of our sales are safe. So old margin of safety is equal to 60,000 divided by 1,80,000 of sales, that is 33.33%. New margin of safety is equal to 33.33 plus 50% of 33.33%, which is 50%. So profits equals total sales into PV ratio into margin of safety. So now firstly we will find sales. So if margin of safety is 50%, then BEP is 50%. So if BEP is 60,000 is 50% of sales, then total sales is 1,20,000. Therefore 1,20,000 into 37.5% into 50%, 22,500. So this is how we do the problem. Looks like a bit complicated one, but you have to try and understand. If you want to know all these concepts, then you have to watch my first video and second video, then you will understand what it is. Thank you.